Love. What greater mystery, what silent sensation to haunt this happiness, bleak evening hours, beauty to bind us. Aspirations and expectations, arisen untouched, put a spell on. Remember the best of times, eyes wide open and interlocking. The measure of a man is kindness. Not every man has the strength to be kind. Not every man has knowledge of kindness. So many handle this world with hot hands, compassion but a shadow, kindness but a crime. How do we know that we are in love? Is it in the heart or in the head? Perhaps it is in what the head and heart say to one another. One not overwhelming the other, but both being overwhelmed together. Unity. Only in honesty is there kindness. Only in every attempt to show sincerity. I awoke this morning and I remembered you, not with longing, nor with want, with kind thoughts and with thanksgiving, with joy, with hope, with laughter, with tears, with love. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming out. just want to say thanks to Thrill for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to see what's happening and how things are changing and the evolution of Thrill. And it's always a pleasure because you don't know what you're gonna get, but you're gonna get something that you're gonna really enjoy. And you never know when you're gonna get that really amazing poem from. It can come from anyone. And it's good because for someone like myself that's been doing this for a while, it's really encouraging to see new voices. That there's always a new voice out there. There's always somebody else with something to say in a way that no one else has said it. And I think that's always what it's been about for me. Trying to find a way to say it like no one else has ever said it, and being true to who I am. Because that's the hardest thing to do, really, in this world. So that being said, I'm gonna do a few more poems, and then we'll get to round two. Mother Africa, see us as we are, mourning, moaning, calling out. See your children destroyed and yet dedicated to sound. Brother John, Saint John with a sequence of screams calls your name every morning, every evening, every hour of the day. If only to split this realm in two, baptizing blackness with ghetto codes, an army of four. To be is to die and be born again. Every morning, every evening, every hour of the day. Release me from these burdens, this body, this cage. With sound and a metal magic wand, I unite the physical with our spiritual home. Crawling out from this loneliness and into the arms of Mother Africa, if only for one moment. Let us unite. Who am I but a seeker, joyous, content, and yet never satisfied? Who would choose a sound and speech as their weapons? Who is a high priest and witch doctor at once? Whose magic black is even better than they say? Who has done everything they needed to do on this planet of existence and so ascended to the next? Brother John. For the love of these final days, waves being what they are, music waning. We are indoors, sun, missing her more than I, these clouds being nothing more than the sun's stolen tears. We are together, and yet I miss her too. Eyes without color, love songs without sound. Do you remember? The laughter of the ocean, the sun being my shoulder. Every dawn, another dream. I know that I'm slipping. Such happiness and homelessness. Give me your name. Your true name. When the lights go out. When you become nothing more than another shadow. When I stop looking for you in every other face I see. It's very quiet. Just to explain the poems, with the exception of one, they're all poems from my last book, and what that book was about was poems that I wrote either while away with Nomadic Massive in Cuba or Brazil, or poems that I wrote to jazz. So it's kind of about two different processes. The first process is going away and being somewhere else where I haven't been before, and taking the time to kind of take that in and use that backdrop as my inspiration, knowing full well that I can't fully come to understand another country and another language in the space of 2 weeks. So kind of being inspired by the landscape and the energy of what that place is, but at the same time, writing things that may or may not be directly related to those places. The other process was poems that I wrote to jazz music. So I made a list of the artists that I love, songs that I love, and I would just sit down, pick a track, and listen to it and write. So the second piece I did was one of those where I had a song that I picked by Coltrane, Africa, from the Africa Brass album, and I just sat down and wrote till I had something. When I first started it, sometimes it didn't click right away. Some songs kind of fight back, and you have to kind of take your time and let it soak in, almost ignore it while paying full attention, and then things start to make sense. Other songs totally make sense right away, and it's really easy. So that's what the book was about. So now I'm kind of in the process of trying to find out what the next book is going to be. I have a good idea, but I have to keep it a secret for now. I'm just going to keep going. The journey began in my mind. The voyage ended in my heart. When I realized I was one, at one, and inside of everyone. African. Nothing more than sensations and shades, fear, vengeance, love, and admiration. Happiness to eclipse all else. I see Africa every day. In her eyes, the silence of her speech, the ancient rain, rhythm to hide me and rhythm to find me, broken or reborn. Would you recognize your own mother if you saw her in the glory of her youth, all that beauty, all these shades? It was a young woman that birthed you, full, voluptuous, strong, the prime in her prime, African. This quivering daylight star nurtures you with her symphony sweet, but your love and respect for her are so wavering. And so you, like your ancestors before you, live on sound. Without food or shelter, sound becomes your guide, so that the warrior in Africa and the Africa in the warrior may live and not simply survive. Claim it, your name, your true name. Tribes describe you. You were lost and yet found. You will lose the world's riches and yet find yourself, and forever be free. Lend me a psychedelic dream. Lend me pieces of daylight. Lend me a destruction sweeter than anything I can remember. Lend me open sounds, a courtyard, Sedgwick Ave. Bury this knowledge in sound, a beat that repeats, a rhythm that has a mind of its own. Let the mind grow. Spread to all 5 boroughs like a virus, black fire, wild stone, rhythm for talk. Say forever, speak softly. It was so easy to know you. Once I began listening to myself, the verse became free. Psychedelic colors and psychedelic graves. Untangling oblivion, one limb at a time, rhythm without and within, daisies growing wild from the barrel of a gun. Shoot stars. Love is an idle threat, shouted to the world, who is not like you? When delivering themselves to themselves, a glass filled with tears, this venom filled with love. I love her so much, because she lets me know that I am faded. What is there to own but hearts? Hearts do all the work, chain us to betrayal and arm of the shadow, set us free. Growling, midnight, wanting more, rescue oblivion from me, given the gift of time, light years with this glance. Ghetto codes and gray days, the search of the sound of sound. Find yourself in flames, evenings on pause. Part of something, apart and in parts, open the first door. Let yourself in. All right, I'm gonna do one more. Before I go, I did change my mind. I'm gonna give you a bit of a clue about where the book is going. Only because it's a room full of poets, people that love poetry, and I think it's important that you guys know kind of what's pushing me forward. And what that is, and what that last poem was about, and inspired by, is a man by the name of Bob Kaufman. Bob Kaufman is the beat poet that nobody knows about. He's a black beat poet. I'll leave it at that. He's my favorite poet, and that poem was inspired by him and his life and the craziness of his myth. Because there's information, there's misinformation, and he's kind of a very enigmatic person. But I really love his writing for many reasons. It's kind of abstract and jazz influenced, and I really feel like out of all the beats that I've kind of checked out, he's the one that seems to kind of understand it. And he lived kind of a strange, kind of nomadic type of vagabond, rebel life. And I would encourage you to check him out. Because for me, he means a lot. So the poem I just did comes from that, and also thinking about what inspired me to write. So linking Bob Kaufman and hip hop and the world that I live in. So, Bob Kaufman. You can clap for Bob Kaufman. So I'm gonna do one more, and then I just want to say thank you once again to Throw for inviting me, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I have to go home. I have to go to Africa right now. I want to cry. I'm going to cry. I'm crying. The page is fading in my tears. My heart is lost. Cuba has me and Africa wants me. I cannot say no. Help me. Someone give me return passage. The orphan age must end. I can't take it anymore. My heart is bleeding into my mind. The mother of mothers is calling. Brown is all we have. The sound of sweet destruction calls me. Love is our second chance. Sit inside yourself, let it blow your mind. The drum is right in front of me. 3 times over. Shades send the sound down my final spine, and Africa is winding its way inside of me. There is nothing I can do. There is no harmony without us. Every instrument swooning to be where we are, captured, free. A trance that stirs slowly like the rain, thunder waits. Love. Love I didn't know I had. Before I go, I have a short story and I have a few announcements. Since I can remember and I can see it, that poem is a true story. I was in Cuba with Nomadic Massive, which is a live hip-hop group that you should all check out if you haven't checked out. And it was the last day there, and we went to Aramba at this percussionist's house, and it was raining really, really heavily. And there was thunder, and people were dancing, and it was very, very intense. And in that moment, I felt as close as I had ever been to Africa. Even though I wasn't in Africa, I was in Cuba, I felt like I was in Cuba, like I was somewhere else. And something came over me and I started to write. I became very emotional. And I started to cry. And while I was writing, I had to write around the tears. And whenever I do that poem, I can still see the room, I can see the rain, I can see the dancers. One of them wasn't Cuban though, one of them was from Oakland. And we thought he was Cuban, but then he started speaking English after he was speaking Spanish. We found out he was from Oakland. The other thing, besides that short story, is that we're doing an Intimate Sky May 13th. And if you can, you really should come out to see it because it's going to be featuring Community, which is a great live improv group that plays every Tuesday at Bobar. And it's also going to feature Nomadic. So we do this thing once a year. We have a sound clash with Intimate Sky. So that features both groups. So it's like 20-something vocalists, a 10-piece band, and kind of a battle of the bands. We kind of put both bands into a blender and see what we get. So it's going to be May 13th at the Mai. The Mai is 3680, 8 o'clock. And if you can come and check it out, please do. All right? Thank you.